Hey, hey everybody, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome to the Tarot Flow Show where synchronicity is the star and I am your host, Alison Pickering, and it is my pleasure to be here today with my co-host, the adorable, the savant from Stockholm, Sweden, the student of the intuitive arts. That is my friend Kefri Skarabus. Welcome, Kefri. Thank you for being here on the
Thank
show.
you, Alison. Nice to be here, as usual.
Thank you so much for joining us. So it's midnight where you are. It's 3
Yeah.
p.m. where I am when our adorable special guest is joining us from Colorado. And like the mountains in our little logo in the corner there in Follow Your Road, she lives in a mountainous state and she has done so many interesting things in her life. She has been someone to bring construction projects and architectural projects to fruition, and from just the idea stage to the actual building. She now helps people manage their enterprises and get through all that practical stuff that can be such a challenge. And at the same time, she is a beautiful, intuitive, nature based, gorgeous woman and an artist and a sculptor and all kinds of beautiful things. She's starting a new business. We're all waiting and looking forward to seeing what she does next because she's so fabulous. This is Laverne Poturalski. Welcome, Laverne. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, welcome. And let me ask you, just so you know a little bit about what the flow is today, we're going to talk a little bit about you and what you have worked with in terms of tarot and intuitive arts. We're going to take a look at a focus card and unpack that just to look at, not as a reading for you, but just to see what all is contained in a particular major arcanum. We'll make some connections. And then I think that what we will do is then jump into our reading. And the reading for you is for your consideration. I mean, I'm from Hollywood. It's all about the Oscars here for your consideration. But that's what these readings are. We're basically looking at a snapshot of the now. We're looking at an expanded vision, perhaps, of the now, things that you may not have considered that are worth considering, worth thinking about, productive time well spent. And so that's basically the idea here, that we're going to go ahead and look at the flow, and then we'll jump right into a reading. And so as we look at the characters here, and we think about this fool character, let me exit this for a moment and go to our beautiful guest and ask you, Laverne, in your life, what have you had interactions with tarot? What have you thought about tarot? What are your experiences so far as we come into this crazy experience today?
I actually have my own deck, and I used to do a lot of readings on myself for years, actually, and it's probably been, I don't know, maybe 20 years. So I had neck surgery a couple years ago, and I pulled out all my cards, but this time the cards didn't feel right for me. And I'm not sure why. So I'm considering getting a new deck. It's just, I knew when I used the tarot that I had direction and it was pretty spot on. So it is something that I would like to get back to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I wonder, oftentimes when we are in times of fearfulness, like with health crises and surgeries upcoming and things like that, and we'll turn to the cards and you're like, well, what's going to happen? And they might just head it off at the pass and say, look, just go through this with faith and don't wait for an answer from me. And so that may well be something that had to do with what was around your lack of connection with it. Was just maybe that wasn't the right tool for that particular job in that moment. Maybe what you really needed to have was faith in your doctors, faith in yourself, faith in your health, and not to place some kind of power outside of that. And so in that way, I think that tarot is a powerful tool. We deal with it very respectfully. I hope we deal with it very responsibly. I am very careful with my language in how we think about words and their power, the neuro-linguistic programming of things, because we come to tarot cards with a lot of potential vulnerability. We are open to the message. And so it's important that the message be responsibly communicated. And so that's our intention for today. If I might say and articulate an intention over this, then let us ask for the blessings of those who do bless these things to really let us know what is most important to think about in this time for our greatest good, for Laverne's greatest growth and blessing. And may this be an experience that really helps us all to understand life and love and spirit better from wherever we're coming from. So that's what I would say over this. I don't know if you would like to say anything yourself.
That sounds wonderful.
Okay.
I'm open to receiving.
Wonderful. Well, I've heard that about you, my dear. Ha ha ha. That's the all-purpose line you can always throw somebody off with. So here we go. So let's take a quickie tour of our images here. And we've got our Fool, who's like the main character of the tarot. He is jumping in with his sack full of potential prior lifetimes and his purity of spirit and his little white rose and his animal companion there. And he's ready to jump, willing to see what this new set of experiences is going to bring them, bring him, bring her, bring them. This is not a man, it's not a woman, it's a spirit. And so it's not about gender, it's really about being and polarities and things like that. So if you look at that first line, we can imagine, let's say, the younger life of the spirit, and they come into their existence and they have their internal masculine and feminine polarities. They maybe have some parents in the Empress and Emperor, maybe a teacher in that Hierophant figure, some friends and relationships, a girlfriend, a boyfriend with the Lovers, and then some movement outside of our hometown and into the rest of the world with that Chariot card. In the middle row, we could say that those are kind of like adult emotional experiences and adult trials by fire, shall we say. We have to experience our passions with a Strengths card, and solitude and our own direction with the Hermit, other people's trajectories and learning and luck and our education with the Wheel of Fortune, the laws, and the promises that we make with the Justice card. How do we sit in the world? Are we with it? Are we against it? Do we have to make sacrifices? How do people see us? There's a lot there in our own identity in the Hanged Man. Sometimes changes come over our whole life and there's just resistance is futile. We can't do anything about it. And then we just have to make adjustments for that Temperance card and mix our own little cocktail and figure out our own best road. You'll see, going back to that Death card, in the very distance, there's a couple of pillars with the sun rising between them. We're going to see those in a moment. The bottom row is like states of consciousness. So you could stay in a very materialistic, work-oriented, money-oriented, Capricorn-driven thing with the devil there, just work, 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 and rendering unto Caesar all the time. If that's all you think it is, then something is going to come in and remind you that there is more. And maybe flip your lid a little bit with that Tower card, and then you are left unto your own authenticity and nakedness there. That flash of lightning lit up the sky, but the moon is now all you have, and it's a little bit harder to tell now, and it's kind of emotional. But there is liberation possible with that Sun card, and there is a new road possible, a new drummer to march to with that Judgment card. And then this idea of an ending and a new beginning and a portal to a new beginning. And then we're back again to our Fool figure and into this cycle of existence that are depicted in the major arcana. So with those crazy cards in mind, Laverne, and with these different majors that we've seen, do any of these particularly call out to you for us to take a little closer look at and unpack the card? This isn't a reading for you. This is just, is one of these particularly evocative to you?
Sort of new beginnings, new starting of things, just being open to new possibilities.
Okay. And which of those cards would represent that for you, do you think?
I want to say that I can't really see it very well because I don't have my
Yeah.
glasses. But
And are you on your phone, poor thing?
I am, but it's
Oh my gosh. So when you watch the replay, you'll be able to see this in nice big screen living color. So that'll be good. And then all the bath and shower of words will have some pictures to make sense of them.
It's the second one from on the bottom.
Okay, so that's the Tower card. You're a brave woman. I like that. I like this woman already, Jeffrey.
I can't see it.
Me
I
too.
just know it.
Yeah, we like people who are gutsy. So here we're going to go. Kefri's going to put that card up on our interface right now. And Kefri, you're going to need to share that.
Yeah, thank you, Alison. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You should see here. There we go.
And there we go. And so we're going to take a look at this Tower card now. And look at the lightning bolt. That lightning bolt has a kind of crazy shape, and but it's a very particular shape. And so when we look later on at the Kabbalistic tree of life, the lightning bolt that comes down from divinity down to us in the earth has that kind of weird shape where it's like zigzag, zigzag, and then middle down the middle. So that is coming down, and it's knocking the crown being our sense of source, or our mentality. It's knocking the lid off of that, and it's bringing a new reality into the circumstance. And so this could be our ivory tower. This could be our preconceptions. This could be everything we hold very dear. And so the things that we do hold dear oftentimes are questioned by our experiences in life. And sometimes they are big experiences that force us to question what we had not questioned before. And it does kind of flip us over. It does turn us around. It does flip our lid. There's so many little funky metaphors that we have that match these cards, you know. It does turn us around. It does throw us for a loop. You know, all the funny little slangy things that we say are really related to this process. What else can we say about Kefri? When you look at this card, what are some other things that we should notice?
This is Mars energies, actually, and it is the 3 windows that are burning up in the tower is actually the highest points in the tree of life. It's what we call the world of Absolute, the highest world, the divine world, so to speak, where we cannot reach, actually. And that is what has gone on fire here. So there could be that we also start doubting things and start to lose our faith in this tower moment, so to speak.
Thank you. I hadn't thought of those 3 being at the top. So there's like a charge of energy that comes in from the top, and it all of a sudden makes you question. Makes you question everything that used to be so dear. Sometimes we have an emotional feeling that we get when we look at these cards. Is there anything, Laverne, that comes to mind for you as you look at this Tower card more closely?
You know, it's just breaking, and I'd say probably breaking the chains of beliefs that really were not mine. They were my family's. And they don't fit me anymore. It's almost like I've outgrown them. And when I see the lightning, what I see is it's a win. It's a victory. It's let's just get it done. Let's show up. Let's do it. Let's just be present. It's kind of what I see.
Wonderful. I love that. It reminds me, we had another reading, we were talking about this idea of the snake eating its own self, you know, that Ouroboros kind of thing. This is the idea of that the snake outgrowing his skin. Yes. You know, and so the skin has got to go because the person has grown. Right. And so you are a bigger being now than the old thinking could contain. And so that's what I would see in this card. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. As we move from the majors there and into our minor arcana, let's take a quick look at these, because for those who aren't familiar with the majors and the minors, we've got 22 majors like we saw before. The 1 is the Fool with a 0, and then the 21 cards here. And then we have our 4 suits, and these are the ancestors of the playing cards that you would be using in Las Vegas or playing gin rummy around the dinner table or whatever. And they depict a journey of an idea from its inception and its sparkiness, where we don't know where it comes from, all the way down into its materialization in time and in space and in the 3D. And so let's take a look on the left is that idea. It's that spark of an idea. This is the wands. This is fire. This is we get ideas, but we honestly can't make ourselves have an idea. You can't force an idea. They come to you, and so you can't really control that world, but you do have access to it as a receiver. And so in that receiver role, the wands are bringing that the thing that gets you going down into the world. Now, that idea is going to mean nothing unless you actually care about it. And so the next phase in the development of an idea would be that you have to care about it, and that's your cups. And there you also see the emotions that's related to the hearts. So we had the clubs and now our hearts with the cups here in the playing cards. This is the emotions. And notice the knight on the bottom there. He's got kind of a holy grail cause. He's very courtly. There's this idea of purposefulness and ceremony and care and chivalry, for example, is all contained within these cups cards. Then if you want that idea to be more than just something that you wish in an emotional way, you're going to have to start making some plans. And that's when we get into the swords, which are much more cold and calculating and analytical. And you can see that our knight there is off and running with his ideas that he's now ready to execute, literally. And then we come into the earth plane. So all the rest of this stuff is outside of time. It's all kind of in our head, so to speak, outside of time. And then we get into the 3D, which is represented by these pentacles. What's that pentagram on the pentacle? Is that a witchcraft thing? No, it's not. It's really about the idea that in this earth plane, in the 3D, we have to handle it with something. And that something is our 5 senses. So we have our sight and our smell and our hearing and our taste and our touch. And each of those in, let's say, NLP might be your lead modality, for example. But it's all our physical senses. And those are the things that we have to deal with this physical plane. And the other piece that is in the physical plane is this idea of time, because things take time in the 3D. And that's why our knight there, his horse is so slow. He's just standing there. But he has to be trusty and patient because he has to wait for the crops to grow. There's even the idea that we have to eat. We have to digest, we have to grow, we have to be planted, and that fruit has to come to flower, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea, all the metaphors. So those are the meanings, therefore, in these suits. And if we just take a quick look then at the 1 through 10 and the 4 court cards, you can see the progression perhaps of an idea with these wand cards. If we had to carry all our ideas, that would be a heavy load indeed, down with that 9 and 10. All the fiery symbols in the court cards with the salamanders and the sunflowers and the flames and the pyramids and the deserts and everything. It cools down a bit when we get to the emotional card of the cups, the feelings, the progression of a relationship, perhaps, families, the idea of rootedness in families. And if you really dig in and fulfill all of the cups, then that would be a joyful thing, is the idea here. And then all the watery symbols in the court cards with the fish and the lotuses and there's even Mercury, the winged Mercury, in addition to the watery symbols in our knight, and lots of angels as well. Because that's a very feeling card and feeling suit. And then as we move into the cooler, more calculating kind of suit, and believe me, if you want surgery, you want somebody who's not going to fall apart in the drama. Okay. So there's certainly a function that we have that's very important with this rationality, even though it might seem rather cold as we look at these images. And we can also drive ourselves crazy by trying to embody all of our thoughts, which would be very painful as we see those 9 and 10s. That's pretty rough. And then we see all these airy symbols with birds and butterflies and clouds and wind in the court cards, and now into our warmer suit that's very comfortable in the 10s and the 9s and 10s, and that's our pentacles. The deeper you get into the earth, the more earthy you get, the more wealth you bring, the more you bring these things into fruition. You have the idea of multi-generational wealth in that last card. Look at the configuration of the pentacles on that last card there in the shape of the Sephirot on the Kabbalistic tree of life. And all the earthy symbols with our court cards here, with the grapes and the crops and the bunny rabbits and the leaves and everything. So it's all very earthy there. So those are the cards that we have in our vocabulary. And then we're going to use that and jump into a reading. So let me just take a breath for a moment and see, Laverne, if there's anything that you might like to say or ask at this point, or Kefri, if there's anything that you would like to add at this point before we jump into how the reading will be configured.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm also good.
Thank you. Looking at our reading here, we're going to look at our top middle, which is basically going to be what we call the significator. By the way, our chariot here is just because he's number 7, and this is a 7-card reading, just kind of being cute, you know. And the issue is the top middle. That's what we're going to be looking at. You can guide us, Laverne, or we can just see what happens. And then on either side of that issue card is going to be some advice. You know, what might be something to be cautious about. It might be your default mode, but it might be better to be cautious in taking that direction. But it might, on the other hand, be really supportive for you to pursue this other direction to the right. Below that, we've got a timeline. We've got a past, present, future, or a first this happened, and then that happened, and then something else happened. So we're either going to be looking at something that's anchored now, and we're looking kind of left to the past and right to the future, or we're going to be looking at a vignette, kind of a story that was something important that happened to you, and we're looking at how that played out, a little timeline. And then at the end, we'll get another perspective card to consider as we've thought about all this stuff. And then that's what the flow is. And so that's what we're going to go ahead and jump on in and do. So if that's okay with you, that's what we'd be doing right now. Sounds like that's a plan. So let's go ahead, Kefri, and I'm going to bring in our cards right now and get our last look at our configuration of the reading. If you need to look at this again, just let me know and we'll pull that image up. And right now what we have is I've got my cards on the table here. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick these up right now, Laverne, and I'm going to shuffle up. If you were here with me, I'd have you shuffle them up and then you pick the cards, because this is an interactive experience, but it's super virtual right now. I first started doing these crazy virtual readings. You and I might be of an age, Kefri might be as well, to remember when AOL was by the minute and you paid it online. It was dial-up. Do you remember those days? Yeah. So that was when there were little chat rooms, and I would just be like typing, and I would say, you know, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do a tarot reading, serious only, you know, hit me up. And some person, it would just be a little dialogue box, would be like, yeah, well, okay, you know, let's check it out. And then I would have them give me a number. I'd count out that card. And it was a similar process. And from that point, did I recognize that it didn't really have to be physical. And then when we got together in COVID with our little study group, which we've had a chance to meet once or twice a week for almost 4 years now, which is a huge blessing. My business is now to try and kind of bring that process to scale, to see about doing some study, doing some readings together, building some community, building some meetups and experiences together. And anybody who'd like to belong with that and jump in with that should go to ALISONPickering.com and check us out. And Laverne, when you are ready for me to stop shuffling and just lay them out, will you tell me to stop?
She is muted, Alison.
Thank you. And you may have told me to stop and I kept going.
Yeah, it's okay. You can stop now.
Thank you. And it's just for the traffic noises that I keep muting you, Laverne. So just
No,
give me a little
you're
wave when you need to talk, you know?
no, you're okay. Yeah, I'm sitting in a little parking lot, so I'm kind of like,
Yeah. Well,
Sorry
you're good.
about that.
If you're good with it, I'm good with it. I just wanted to make sure that we all had the clearest signal in terms of this recording. You can see that I'm kind of touching them. I like to be able to see them all. Okay, so right now I'm going to go ahead and pick our top, middle card, which is, as we may remember, the issue. And then I'm going to do our timeline, and then I'm going to do advice either way. And then later on, we'll do our perspective card. So let's do right now the issue. So what are we looking at for Laverne? Laverne, I didn't ask you if you wanted to focus this in a particular way. Is there a particular area you'd like to look at? Or you can just roll the dice with the rest of us.
Let's just roll the dice.
Let's do it. Or whatever metaphor, right? Okay. All right. So here we go. This is the issue at hand. What are we looking at for Laverne? So that's the 7 of Cups. Let's look at this timeline. What happened first? What's the long ago or the ago that we're looking at? Death card, big changes, endings and beginnings. Again, this is not physical death. These are metaphoric ego death kind of experiences. Big changes. What happened after that? Subsequent to that, oof, yes, it was a little rough. That's the 9 of Wands. You're still standing. You are still standing like that Elton John song. You are still standing better than you ever were. Like a true survivor. Like a little kid. Laverne, after that rough 9 of Wands, then what? The Page of Pentacles. Now let's give some advice. What's advice that's better avoided? Better avoided here. 3 of Pentacles. Interesting that collaboration and mutual things are recommended against. We'll see how that, I don't want to be so literal on that, but it's an interesting positioning for that. Excuse me, that just dropped. And finally, and then we'll pick our 7th card a little later on for our recommendation for Laverne. What's a more recommended direction that's going to be supportive for her? And that's the Hierophant. Well, firstly, trust yourself. You don't need other people's ideas, really. All right, let's go ahead and put that 7 of Cups up, Kefir, if you don't mind. So we can't see your face right now. So it's as if not that you can't face them, but rather that you can't yet see clearly what of these wonderful possibilities you're going to choose. And so you're in this kind of emotional process right now of seeing what might strike your fancy, of waiting for the thing to show itself. Maybe it's that pink one in the middle that's kind of veiled with a little pink glow on it. We don't know. Or maybe you already have that, and maybe it's the snake, or maybe it's that castle, or maybe it's the jewels. You can see, maybe it's victory. So you can see that all of these things represent something or other, in life that one might desire. But the idea being that it's like, what do you desire? What do you want? Really, that's the most important thing for you to figure out, because you have been through the mill. So let's take a look at the Death card. This is the card that is in the past. Whatever this was, you couldn't do anything about it. So if you're feeling guilty about it, release that, because there was no resisting this. This was something that had to happen. Look at all these figures on the ground. You've got the emperor on the ground. He can't do anything about it. The bishop is negotiating. That's no use. That strength girl with her lion that she can usually handle, she can't even look at this. The only one who's kind of got the best attitude is this little kid who's kind of like, okay. So that's a really good recommendation, I think, is just to, as you look back on this experience, just recognize that there was nothing you could have done about it. All is forgiven. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like Carolyn Miss, this medical intuitive. I think that we may have talked about her briefly yesterday. She talked about how we take things so personally. Things march through our lives and we take them as if they're a personal affront, but they're basically just kind of a neutral experience for us to process. And it's not because we did anything wrong. It's not punishment. It's not meaningful in that way. The meaning is what we do with it. And so what you do with it is to be able to best process this experience. So let's look at the 9. The 9 in this is showing you that you're strong, that you have made it through, that it takes a lot more than this to knock you on your ass, excuse my language. You now know what to look for. You're not as naive. You might be a little defensive, but it's understandable. You can begin to lay that down as you move forward. But it's understandable because it was rough, and so you're still licking your wounds a little bit, and that's okay. Because as you move forward into the future, into this page of Pentacles, you have a new endeavor to explore. And Kefri, we're going to look at that page.
Yeah.
Thank you. And also, let's look at the colors. Let's just kind of notice that as we move left to right in this, we're moving from kind of darkness into a much more colorful experience. And so that's something to be considered as well as you're coming out of this difficulty, is we're moving into this very beautiful yellow gorgeousness. And this yellow gorgeousness is very connected to the center part of the tree of life, which is really about the place of balance and beauty. If it resonates with you, it's the place of Christ consciousness. In the Jewish star, for example, when you have the downward triangle and the upward triangle, and the place where they meet together is this central place of consciousness. And that's this place of balance, which is very much in this golden color. And so you are now planting this new seed of your life with an aim to really fill that vessel of beauty in your life, which is you. You are the beautiful vessel. Yes, we're all going to cry at the end of this thing. I was crying at the end of the last one. You're not alone, my dear. So, because it is you. And if you weren't able to recognize it before, that horrible experience freed you to be able to do that. Let's look at, and then in that page, let's just quickly look again, if you don't mind, Kefri, at that page. Look at the field, that plowed field. There is much for you to now do in this new phase of your life. There is much to be sought at the top of that mountain. There is much richness between your toes as you walk through the grass and enjoy your connection to the earth. Even through your toes are little flowers. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, little flowers, you're so sweet. And you might pick up even a little tiny bouquet and stick it behind your ear or something, just because you don't want to crush the flowers, but you love, it's so delicious to feel them and everything, So you're interacting with nature, shall we say. And you're a delightful little fairy interacting with nature, which is very, very nice. So you're able to really explore that kind of elemental aspect of your nature. That fairy element, that gnome element, that gardening forest nymph kind of thing, that water. If you like water and a little creek in the forest, you're right in your element there. That's a very feminine forest element. A lot of men don't like forest, but women do because it's a very feminine vibe. So looking now at our advice card. So you have this 7, and remember the 7 was the Chariot. And so there's that idea of movement, this idea of emotional movement. Looking at that 3 in the recommendation against. Okay, so one thing that's interesting, we have 2 pentacles in here. So one is that page, which is in the future, and the other is this 3, which is looking in the past. And so the page is like a new beginning. And so I'm going to say that things that you've collaborated with and started maybe in the past, you can park them for a while. They're not... Notice that what you have on the left is some workers in the church, and what you have on the right is the priest. You are not a worker in the church at the moment. You are the priest. You are not the architect. You are the priestess. You are not the money man. You are the priestess. You are the teacher. You are the bringer of the light. Let's look and see where that Hierophant card... Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful card. It's a beautiful directional card that comes from the place of wisdom into the place of mercy. And so this is the time for you to be soft and merciful upon yourself, for you to bring blessing upon yourself and others. And you are going to just being who you are, you will be able to bring blessing. And so I encourage you to think in the terms in which, how might you be able to most effectively and clear channeledly bring your gifts forward for others to consume, to comprehend, to apprehend, to take communion, to be in communion. You're not a worker bee. You've been doing this all these years, but that just shows your level of behind the scenes mastery. And now it's time to bring that forward. That's what I'm seeing here, Laverne. I'm going to leave you to contemplate. You don't need to say anything unless you really want to. And I'm going to hand off to Kefri now. As we mentioned before, I kind of take this at a worldly and psychological kind of level, and then he's going to pick it up and take it up into a spiritual thing. Is that okay? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, Kefri, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alison. I look at it a bit like you, Alison, and I see that there is or have been a lot of changes, but now there is a stabilization in the situation, I would say. And Laverne, I think that you have found your position in what you are doing. And I also think that you can feel that you have a support from some mysterious higher realm or something. And it's like you feel when things are right to do today, and you also do them. And you don't need a plan for this, actually. You should go on intuition here, I would say, because that will be right choices. When you have a plan, I think that will close you off from your intuition, actually. So you should be careful with that, I think. And also, Alison has already been into it. You should do this alone. You shouldn't do this in co-working, actually. And you should do it in your own way and in your own speed, actually, because there are no hurry in this. And there is a great transformation here that Alison has been into already, and that is that now you are not the one being taught, you are the teacher, actually. And you will teach things to others now. And these teachings are even bigger than ordinary teachings, because the truth is you are an initiator for others, actually, because you have a contact with a higher realm of energies, actually. And now is the time where you begin to see how you can build a foundation to use those contacts that you have in a form of channeling or something to reach out to others in this world, actually, to help them. And in this, there is also, of course, something we don't see, and that is at the same time that you help higher beings, higher realms, higher worlds at the same time, because it's taking and giving, so to speak. And when that is functioning, you are in line with development, actually. And that is what is happening here, actually. And this 7 is interesting because I look not so much at the cops with the different choices. In this case, I look at this dirigimental person, or what it is that tries to manage things. And when I first look at him, I see he's all black, actually. But when I start to look a bit more, I see that it is a sort of a black greenish color, actually. Sorry, out in the arms and in one side of the body, actually. And this is going from, I believe, Saturn energies to Venus energies, actually, going from discipline to love for what you are doing, actually, because you don't have to concentrate so much on this hard discipline anymore. You can play more now, actually, and you can test different ideas, and you feel safe in this, actually. And you should do it alone, actually, because that is where your strength is also. And this will be building up gradually, actually, with this page here, because it is like it's a seed that is starting to grow. And the truth is, it's not one seed, several seeds, actually. And this will help your garden to bloom, actually. It's quite a long process, and it's a process that you will like all the way, actually, because you have found something to hold on to now, and you can build a foundation out from that, actually. And I think I stop there because this is very light cards, actually. So you are very well taken care of. Thank you. And we will now take the 7th card, actually. So I will take that one. We will see what it is. And it is the World card, actually. Which says it all. That the circle is connected, actually. You are inside of the circle, and that is really a portal. So you have opened up something completely new for you and others, actually.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so beautiful that it's announcing your presence. She's here, she's here, she's here, she's here, she's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an ambulance going down the street. It's like, hello, she's here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you probably remember that magician card, and he has the 1 wand. You know, he's got the 1 wand that he's bringing down from the beginning, from the sky down into his garden. But now this figure has the 2 wands, you know. So we're going to take a look at that quick magician. So he's got the 1, and he's bringing it down in the beginning of this process. He's the number 1 card. Then you get to the whole end of the process, which is that world card that we just saw. That is the one that was the culminating card for you. And that's like the whole, it's a big completed journey. So it's like this death card is from the past, is indicating the completion of this big old phase. And now as you move into this new big phase, you're moving into it as a whole new person, as a whole new spiritual being with this double wand victory with the purple royalty. Purple is also the kind of astral plane above us, is a good color for contacting that. That yesod is then the purple, that foundation. That's the 9. Look at the 9. You've got the 9 right in your present time. So 9 and purple are very significant there. And all of this stuff is really just very complimentary to you in terms of you as a person, and also super, to me, powerful and hopeful for your trajectory as you look into the future for whatever it is that you're doing next. You're going to be doing wonderful things for yourself, certainly, just because it's going to be fulfilling for you, but the blessings that you're going to be bringing to others in that Hierophant recommended red robed role there, as well as your own, shall we say, naked purity that you are presenting to the world as an example of what it is to be real.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I can make myself cry, and you too. It just, with the words just flow, Laverne. I don't know where they come from, but they come from you.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah. And as are you. And this is a beautiful reading. So I thank you so much for subjecting yourself to the tarot flow, so to speak. I hope it's been useful.
Yes.
You can let us know whether you want this to air. That's entirely your discretion. And if you would like us to pull any more cards or do anything more, we're happy to do that. But this has been basically a pretty comprehensive 7-card reading for a very beautiful woman.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, I feel this is exactly what I needed to hear. Because I get stuck in the past and I replay conversations over and over and over again. And I mean, I today when I was getting ready for our meeting, I started thinking about how I was a chaplain for the Scouts. Wow. And I had created this wonderful prayer book, and I'm like, you never did anything with that. So I have it, my own copy. I shared it with one other person. And I'm like, you need to share that.
Oh, what a beautiful thing that is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean,
it's the beginnings of your merch, Laverne. It's your lead magnet.
I think so. I think so.
No, and we're talking about giving it to the world. So obviously this is your gift to the world. It's also your opportunity to connect with the world and for the world to connect with you in such an authentic way. And the Scouts have had a difficult thing. It's been a hard thing for all. It's kind of like the Catholic Church to me.
Yes.
So for anyone who's watching, if you've gotten this far, congratulations. You have wonderful attention. But I was having this discussion with my husband the other day because we were in Mexico City, and he was greatly charged up by seeing people walking on their knees, very humble people walking on their knees to these cathedrals full of gold. And I have felt the irony myself. But for all that one might go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, the purity of heart of the people who are doing that symbolic thing is never to be questioned, and that should never be lost. And so what brought people to become Eagle Scouts and to behave honorably and to be honorable and to do honorable things and to live in that ethic must be preserved, past all the human foibles that have brought down the organization, shall we say. But it's the intent behind it that is so important, and that you were a part of that and have prayers of it is a wonderful legacy.
Thank you.
Yeah. So blessings to you on all your beautiful Scouts and Scout masters and leaders and all the work that you have done, and your sons and nephews and grandchildren, blah, 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 all of those men, all of those wonderful men and girls and women. Blessings upon you all. Thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to our future interactions. I look forward to it all.
Thank
I
you
look forward to seeing what you bring forward. It's going to be so beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. I'm going to put a little background music as we say bye-bye. And thanks, everybody, for joining us at the Tarot Flow Show. Come to ALISONPickering.com to know about our other stuff, our classes, our community, our travel and meetup experiences. Thanks, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.